So, where in the world are we today, Nom, my good friend? Ooh, Argentina. It's beautiful this time of year. Have you put together some footage of this great nation to get us in the mood? Ah, there we go. Downtown Buenos Aires on a Thursday afternoon, looking resplendent. So what is Argentina famed for? Ah, well, brooding gauchos majestically corralling their herds, the producer of some of the world's best red wines, and the best red meat, as well as being the birthplace of red-blooded dancing. Oh, Nom, I told you to get some footage of the Argentinian tango. You've gone with a reproduction of the end scene from Dirty Dancing, haven't you? What is it with you and Patrick Swayze? But anyway, what of Argentina and the beautiful game? Could Argentina be the inspiration for your next game of Football Manager? We'll investigate this great footballing nation in the League Lowdown, Guide to Argentina. Okay, so we're going to start by trying to explain to you the Argentinian league structure, which is no mean feat, my friends. Argentina has a league structure that is nuttier than a squirrel's pantry, so much so that I had to enlist the help of a South American football expert in the form of Rock's End FM, who themselves have an amazing journeyman blog around South America that we'll link to in the description. But without further ado, let's have a look at the Argentinian league structure. So let's introduce you to the Superliga Clásico, the top flight in Argentina, which on the face of it looks pretty straightforward, a 24-team top division. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Until 5 years ago, Argentina still operated a traditional South American structure to its season, where it would be made up of two different stages, an Apertura, or an opening championship, and a Clausura, a closing championship, with two distinct champions named during each phase. And in some points during the league's history, those two champions would even play off in a grand final. But 5 years ago, Argentina decided to switch to a more European-style championship, but they decided to do so with 30 teams in the top flight. Now, they quickly realised that having 30 teams in one top flight division was a little bit too much, so they set about trying to reduce the number of teams, relegating more teams each year than they were allowing to be promoted from the second tier. This means that the number of teams currently in the top flight is 24, but they're reducing that further over the next couple of years. Another little twist in Argentina is that the teams only play each other once during the season. So there are only 23 games in the regular season in Argentina. Now, financially, that doesn't really appease the club. So in order to increase the number of games that they have, they also have a new cup competition in Argentina, the Copa Superliga, where the whole league is split into two pools. So you have two groups of 12, and the teams play each other once during the group phase there, creating an extra 11 games. And the top two teams in each pool go into a semi-final, and the winner of that competition gets a Copa Libertadores place. Now, relegation in Argentina is also a little bit complicated as well. The bottom four clubs all slip into Argentina's second tier. But that's not the four clubs that have the lowest total in just this season. They have an average system in operation in Argentina, where the teams with the lowest average points from the last three campaigns, plus the last three Copa Superligas as well, are the teams that get relegated. Now, one thing that is a little bit more straightforward in Argentina's top flight is the Continental Qualification that is on offer. The top 6 teams all get the opportunity to play at various stages of the Copa Libertadores, and the teams placed 7th to 12th all qualify for the Copa Sudamericana. Now, that does depend on who wins the respective cup competitions in Argentina, but that is at least a little bit more straightforward. The teams that are relegated go into the Primera B Nationale, which is again split into two different pools. 16 teams in each. Teams do play each other home and away this time, and there is a 30-game season. The winners of each of those two groups are not automatically promoted to the top flight, however. They play off against each other, and the winner of that game is automatically promoted to the top flight. and the loser has to slip into a second playoff with the teams that are placed second, third and fourth from each group as well. So that's the league system in Argentina, but what are the different challenges out there for players of Football Manager, and which clubs might you like to take charge of? So what better place to start than to look at Argentina's top two, Boca and River, two teams that hail from the same city. In fact, two teams that hail from the same port of La Boca originally, although in the 1920s, River upstick to a different part of the city known as Núñez, which is a more affluent middle-class area of Buenos Aires. So River, or their nickname of the Millionaires, are traditionally associated with more affluent supporters, whilst La Boca are the team from the port, followed by the working classes. They have one of the most heated rivalries, not just in South American football, but in world football, known as the SuperClásico. But they have much to offer fans of Football Manager. Let's start with River Plate, playing in the 65,000 capacity Monumental. They have some superb facilities. Anybody that has ever signed an Argentinian wonder kid may well have taken them from River Plate. This is a team that has one of the richest histories, with 4 Libertadores Cup titles, 35 Superliga titles, as well as a host of cup victories to their name as well. They're going to have the healthiest budget you could wish for in Argentinian football, but the pressure is going to be on to win trophies from the outset. The other top 2 team that you could take charge of is, of course, Boca Juniors. Famed for Diego Maradona, one of their most famous fans, of course. They play in La Bombonera, or the chocolate box, due to its odd shape of stadium. A stadium that is said to literally shake as the supporters jump up and down, all 49,000 of them. Then They are, of course, no stranger to success themselves. 6 Copa Libertadores titles, 33 Superliga titles, as well as 2 Copa Sudamericanas as well, and a host of cup competitions of their own. They themselves will have an eye-watering budget by Argentinian standards. They will have excellent facilities as well as a star-studded squad compared to many of the teams that you will face in the league. So they will have a look at those top corporate facilities, great training facilities, good youth facilities, exceptional youth recruitment. So River and Boca are without doubt 2 of the biggest teams that you could take charge of in all of South America. But the pressure to win trophies will be huge, and the pressure to win the annual SuperClásico will be likewise. But what about life outside of the top 2? Are there other teams in Argentina with a rich history that you could take charge of? So alongside Boca and River, there are 3 more teams from the greater Buenos Aires area that make up Argentina's traditional Big 5. The first of those is Racing Club, a 50,000 capacity stadium, alongside a pretty impressive history, which includes 1 Copa Libertadores title and 17 league victories. So you can see that they, in their own right, are a huge team in South American football. If they're not the team that you're looking for, then maybe one of their near neighbours might be Independiente, a 45,000 capacity stadium, as well as a huge track record of regional success. 7 Copa Libertadores titles and 2 Copa Sudamericana titles, as well as 15 league victories, mean that Independiente are one of the most prestigious clubs in Argentina. Then rounding off the Big 5, we also have San Lorenzo. They have a 43,000 capacity stadium, as well as having 1 Libertadores title and 14 Superliga crowns as well. They boast their own excellent facilities and their own excellent youth recruitment as well. So maybe San Lorenzo might just be the team for you. But outside of the Big 5 in Argentina, what other challenges are there for the players of Football Manager? Well, fans of Youth Academy challenges are naturally going to be drawn towards the big 2 of River and Boca, but there is another team in Argentina that might just provide you with the challenge you're looking for if you like a youth academy based game, and that is Velez Sarsfelt. If that name is familiar to you, then you may remember Jose Luis Chilavert, a goalkeeper who scored 35 goals for Velez back in the 1990s. They have a night on 50,000 capacity stadium, and they also have a pretty successful history, 1 Copa Libertadores title and 9 top flight triumphs as well. But it is their facilities that might just be appealing to fans of youth academy challenges. They've got excellent training facilities, superb youth facilities. Their junior coaching is only adequate, but their youth recruitment is defined as exceptional. So fans that like to create their own youth players, and where better place to do that than Argentina? If you fancy a bit more of a challenge than River Plate or Boca might provide, maybe Velez Sarsfelt might just be the team that you head for. But what if we're looking for a sleeping giant? Where might we go in Argentina then? So if you're looking for a sleeping giant to revive, well, Argentina has a couple. We've got to head down to the second division to find them. The first of them is Club Ferraro, who have a 24,000 capacity stadium and have a little bit of history to their name as well, with 2 Superliga titles in their trophy cabinet. But they have been languishing down in the second division in Argentina for 15 years now. So if you are looking for a former great club to try and revive, well, Pharaoh might be the name for you. If we stay in Argentina's second division, the other team that might appeal to you if you fancy restoring a former great to their rightful place at the top of the Argentinian game is Quilmes. Now, don't get confused, Quilmes is also the sponsor of the Superliga. That's because from the area of Buenos Aires where Quilmes hail, there is also a major brewery that sponsors both the club and the Superliga as well. But the club has an incredibly passionate fan base, a decent sized stadium with a capacity of 30,000, and also has some trophies in its cabinet as well, having won the Superliga 2 times during its history, although you have to go back to the late 70s to find the most recent of them. But if you are looking for a giant to take back to the top of Argentinian football, then Quilmes might be a team that interests you. But if we return to the top flight, what other clubs are there that might interest football managers? If you are looking for a challenge outside of the traditional top 5 in Argentina, then Estudiantes might interest you. They've got a 53,000 capacity stadium, but that is just the start of the story. They've got 4 Copa Libertadores titles in their trophy cabinet, as well as 5 Superliga titles as well. The most recently of those was in 2010, when they had a Juan Sebastian Veron amongst their ranks, who is now chairman. Yes, he of former Lazio and Manchester United fame. The Little Witch, as he is known, is currently chairman of the club. His father, the original Witch, is also a legend of Estudiantes, so maybe they are a team that might interest you. If they are not, then maybe you would like to follow in the footsteps of Marcelo Bielsa and take over at Newell's Old Boys, 42,000 capacity stadium, and they also have 6 Superliga titles to their name, the most recent of which was back in 2013. So this is the club that Bielsa took to glory with a young Mauricio Pochettino amongst his team. So maybe you could recreate the glory that those two experienced. If you are looking for another top team in Argentina to manage, but maybe one that's a little bit more of a challenge, maybe Belgrano might be the team for you. They've got a 30,000 capacity stadium. They've never won a top flight honour in Argentina, even though they are one of the most well-supported clubs in the country. They hail from the city of Cordoba, which is in the north of Argentina. They have incredibly passionate fans up there. Think Newcastle United if we were comparing them to an English equivalent, but they have a trophy cabinet that is completely empty, and they currently find themselves in Argentina's second tier. So if that sounds like your kind of challenge, maybe you could take them into the top flight and take them to the top of Argentinian football. So that concludes our guide to Argentina and the teams that you could manage in Football Manager. It is a country that boasts some massive clubs in South America, as well as some smaller but well-supported teams that you could guide to glory. We're going to see you very soon when we make another country the focus of our next League Lowdown.